Mr. Cameron, who resigned on the morning of June 24, 2016 after the nation voted to leave the European Union, has reportedly suggested there is no chance the current Prime Minister would do the same. Instead, the former PM is believed to have claimed Mrs. May will cling to power until the bitter end. Like Gordon Brown, instead of bowing out like himself at Tony Blair. A friend of Mr. Cameron told The Times David was suggesting the idea she retires voluntarily seemed implausible. Meanwhile, Westminster insiders have claimed last week's cabinet reshuffle, largely seen as chaotic after the PM failed to make significant changes to her top team, was in fact a clever play to consolidate power. May is expected to fight on until she is voted out of office or ousted by her own party. The Prime Minister faced a chaotic reshuffle last week. A senior Tory has claimed the subtle reconfiguration of her front bench was a bid to neutralize ambitious MPs, moving up-and-coming ministers who disagree with her policies to different departments instead of offering them promotions or demotions. Labour and Conservative MPs alike hit out at the PM's reshuffle, claiming it made her look unable to rein in powerful forces in her own cabinet. Secretary for Health and Social Care Jeremy Hunt had initially been tipped to be moved from his position, but instead convinced the PM to keep him in place with an even wider remit than before. Meanwhile, Justine Greening, who had a terse relationship with the PM during her time as Education Secretary, stepped down from the cabinet after being offered a position in the Department of Work and Pensions. Thursday, May 11, 2017, David E. Cameron hugs a pensioner during visit to Cheshire. Robert Goodwill, who lost his job in the Education Department, claimed the meeting with Mrs. May was rather awkward. He said the meeting with Theresa was shorter and actually rather awkward, as the PM and I both started out as candidates in the Northeast at the 1992 general election. We know each other well, although I wouldn't say we were close. I actually butted in to say I knew why she had called me in and that I quite understood the situation. She seemed to be more upset than I was, and we parted with a warm handshake. It comes after the Prime Minister claimed she would go on to fight the next election, adding that she will serve as long as people want me to serve. David Cameron resigned from his position the morning after the nation voted to leave the EU last Sunday. She said, "I'm not a quitter. I'm in this for the long term." On Friday, Environment Secretary Michael Gove refused to rule out a second Conservative leadership bid to replace Theresa May, just 18 months after his controversial last run at becoming Prime Minister. He refused to give BBC Radio 4's Today programme a direct answer on whether he was positioning himself to run the country, insisting his focus is completely on his current brief of Environment Secretary. Mr. Gove instead tipped Defence Secretary Gavin Williamson and Education Secretary Damien Hines as possible future Conservative leaders. He hailed both men as incredibly impressive young politicians and two people who come from the sorts of background that give you experience of life.